Hello, Dan. We are just getting everything set up, so bear with us here for a moment. I'm going to turn it over. This is your main host. Show me.
All right. Okay, yeah. So hi everybody. I am Julian Forsyth, and I am here with BFF at BFF Bikes. This is our first event we've done in quite a while, so bear with us. And it's also it is also the first Zoom event we've done here. So we're hoping everything goes smoothly, but please be patient if we run into issues. I'm really excited that so many of you signed up today. We had 30 people signed up, so that's really exciting. It means that a lot of people are interested in indoor riding, and whether that means, you know, putting your bike on a trainer and watching television, or if you want to do some hardcore intervals, you know, it runs the gamut here. And we'll show you, we're going to show you how to put together a trainer from scratch here. Got Peter here from Saris, who's gonna put together a trainer for you. So he'll show you how to do that. And I'm also really excited that we have some great panelists to answer any questions that you have. We've already got some great questions in. We have Jackie Godby, who is super exciting. There she is there, she does wave. We have Terry Friel, if you can give us a wave, Terry. There she is. And then we have in the room, we have Shelly Navin. I almost said Sarson, but Navin. And we have Peter again, we're from Saris. And we have Coach Chris here from 4-Star Endurance. So awesome group of panelists. So please get your questions ready. And just along with that, we're going to keep everybody on mute while we go through the presentation. And if you have questions, either type BFF into the question and answer box, or you can type your question in. And once we get to the panel, I can either unmute you and you can ask your own question, or I can ask the question for you. So, so again, we'll answer your questions during the panel once the presentation is over. What else I was going to say? And also, if you stay to the end, you'll find out about a little giveaway that we're doing here at the shop. So stay tuned for that. And then let's see. I think that's all I had. So I am going to turn it over to Coach Chris here from 4-Star Endurance, and he's going to do his presentation. And hoping that everyone can hear me and everyone can hear us. If you can't, let us know by waving or something. All right. Thank you.
All right, gang. Hello, it's Coach Chris here. Can you guys hear us okay? If you can, give us a little thumbs up if you're able to hear us okay. We are in an active bike shop, so bear with us as there might be some background noise. And we do have to wear masks, so you may not be able to hear us as clearly. So if anything you can't hear and you want us to either go back through it, feel free, just put a little comment into the chat. You know, this seminar is really an interactive seminar for you guys, so we want to be able to answer all of your questions. I'm going to go through a couple slides here to get us started, and then we're going to go into a real hands-on. So we'll talk about especially the Saris trainers that we have and how to get those set up. But to get us started, I'm going to share my screen here, so just bear with us.
And just to be clear, the question and answer is in the chat. I don't think I was clear on that. So you should see your chat at the bottom there and ask your questions there.
Yep, and if you guys submitted questions ahead of time, we do have those, and we'll be going through those either during the presentation or at the end of the presentation. So Here we go. So we did our little introductions already. So the main, obviously Jillian's from BFF Bikes. Peter behind me is from Saris. And then I'm from 4-Star Endurance Coaching here in Chicago. What we're gonna do today, we're gonna just talk about indoor training. And then we're gonna talk about how to get started with indoor training, kind of what the options are, what are the easy ways, what are the ways for different things you might wanna do. And then we'll talk about the technology and actually the software side. So the different options and the cool new stuff that's actually going on and changing very rapidly, thanks to the way the world has changed, which is actually a good thing in terms of the changes in the innovation in the cycling world. And then we're gonna do a little demo of setting up, and then we'll have that Q&A panel at the end as well. So I'm gonna jump right in. So a lot of people ask, why should you get into indoor cycling? That can mean a lot of different things: indoor racing, virtual riding, or just sitting on a trainer, watching TV. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of motivations, a lot of benefits. So the main thing that a lot of people lean to these days is safety and convenience. Being able to train right at home in your living room, in your office, in your bedroom, wherever it might be. And not have to worry about things outside. If you're in a city, if you have bad streets, car traffic, you don't want to risk falling and injuring yourself. There's a lot of reasons that people train indoors just for safety. It's also a great use of space and a very flexible use of space. There's really not much else you can do to get a super high quality cardio workout in a roughly 3 by 6 foot space. So it's a really effective use of space if you don't have a lot of space and you want to still work out. I live in a small condo downtown in Chicago, do not have a lot of space, but with a 4 by 6 foot nook, I was able to set up 2 bike stations for indoor riding for my wife and I. It's also a great way just to get those quality workouts, whether you want to burn a lot of calories or you just want to experience something new. If you want to ride the climbs of the Tour de France, if you want to be riding literally side by side with a pro athlete. Shelly and I were riding with the 3-time Ironman world champion last week on a virtual ride. You don't get to do that every day, but now everyone is online. So it's a neat, all the different options that are out there now. And that's really the biggest thing for me is the mental and social side of things. We're all struggling a little bit, I think, with our mental health these days. So being able to do something that's fun and social is really a great outlet. So in the virtual world, there's things that you can do that you can't do in the real world. Like group rides, where even if you're a beginner, you can ride with a really strong or experienced athlete side by side the whole time. You can do video and voice chat, like you're riding right next to them the whole time. So that's really good, not just from the training and motivation standpoint, but like I said, the mental health side of things. The other really important thing, and this is kind of what BFF really focuses on, is women's specific programs. So there's women's specific teams and rides and races. I know like one of the ones I was just looking at the other day, Kristen Armstrong, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, hosts a weekly ride on Zwift just for women. So there's a lot of different things like that that you might not normally get exposure to. So really, really a lot of good reasons. The other thing to be aware of is this whole crazy COVID thing has caused a huge revolution and evolution of indoor cycling. Literally overnight, in a 2-month period, I know one of the most popular platforms, Zwift, increased 200 to 300% in just a matter of a month or two. So everyone is going indoors, pros, amateurs, everybody. So bikes are in high demand. Bike trainers are in high demand. I'm always telling people, if you're thinking about getting into one and you don't have a trainer to use indoors or bike to use indoors, order now, because I know a lot of places are looking at at least 4 to 8 week lead time sometimes to get something. So if you want something for Christmas, you probably want to order it in the next couple weeks. And technology can be intimidating, but it's gotten a lot easier. So getting set up, We'll talk about that in terms of the technology and the software and the ways you can do it, the easy ways you can do it. And I know it's intimidating, so just anticipate, you know, if you don't know how to do things, there are ways to learn very quickly and easily. So first things first, I want to highlight kind of the main different options. So, you know, there are the crazy high expensive options like getting a permanent indoor bike, like a Peloton bike, or these new interactive bikes, Garmin, Wahoo Stages. They make these fully integrated, fancy bikes. Those are awesome if you have the money, but you don't need that. To get started, you can get a full experience spending a lot less money. What we're going to focus on a lot today in terms of talking about trainers is kind of this middle tier, what we call the smart bike trainer, or what you can think of as an interactive bike trainer. And that simply means that the bike that you're on can be attached to a trainer by your rear wheel. And as you're riding, some type of software or device like your phone can control the resistance. It can simulate hills for you, so it can interactively change the resistance as you're riding, rather than just sitting there spending the same effort the whole time. And that's the market that's really grown a lot. So you'll hear us talk about two different types of trainers or smart trainers. One is called wheel on. So if you look at Peter here, he's got a bunch of parts in front of him. This is one where you leave your bike wheel on your bike, and you just put your bike on this device called a trainer, and you can ride it indoors. There's another type, which is over to the side here on this fancy platform. It's a little further over here. That one is called a direct drive trainer. That one, you actually take your rear wheel off of your bike, and you just attach the chain onto a device called a cassette to control the resistance. Those are a lot more silent, so we'll talk about that, or a lot quieter, so we'll talk about that a little bit, but they are more expensive. There's also what we call dumb trainers, or the old school basic trainers. You can find anything just to prop up your rear wheel, basically, and ride on. Most of those don't interactively change the resistance for you. They just give you the same resistance the whole time, or they might have a manual switch. And those are the traditional older style. The other option, if you're really good at balancing yourself, are rollers. They even make smart rollers, portable rollers. So the pricing can get down to, you know, $50 to $100 for a really, probably not a super nice one, but a really, really basic trainer. So those are the main ones. In terms of the smart or interactive trainers, the basic way to get started is here on the right. If you just want to try things out, you can get something called a speed sensor on your bike if you don't already have one. And those can be Bluetooth, they can connect with your phone, and you can get started just by downloading an app on your phone. You can get a smart trainer that controls resistance, or use a dumb trainer. And that sensor usually costs about $30. So really easy, almost no barrier to entry. If you just have a regular trainer at home, you don't need to spend a lot of money. You can even connect it to your TV with something like a mirroring device, or a Fire TV, an Amazon Fire TV device. Again, $30, and you can get your phone projected up on your big screen TV. Now, if you want something a little more interactive, and something more practical that you might use indoors and outdoors, if you're a rider that wants to train a little bit more structured, train with power, you can get a power meter. And that's what all smart trainers have. They either have it integrated into the actual trainer itself, or you can get it somewhere on your bike, like pedals and whatnot. You're gonna spend a little bit more money. You're probably looking at $500 to $1,000 all in when you go that route. But that's nice if you go with a pedal-based power meter or something on your bike, because you can use it indoors and outdoors. If you really want to get hooked, you can get this fancy thing. We've got the example here, a big fancy interactive platform. That platform actually rocks side to side, makes it more comfortable than riding on a stationary bike. Get a nice big screen TV. I actually spent only about $200 and got a big 40-inch TV, and I put that right in front of my bike. So I have a dedicated little training corner in my home office. The other thing to consider too is how you want to control. If you want to use any type of software, you can just sit and watch TV. If you have a cell phone, you can use a cell phone to control a smart trainer. The easiest or the best options I recommend are either getting a tablet, so you can have a dedicated device, or an Apple TV. If you have an Apple TV, that's actually sometimes the best tool to use. It's the easiest and it doesn't clutter up anything. All right, so before we get into a little bit more, I was going to mention what is power. I don't know if everybody knows what power is, but I just wanted to mention this. You'll see this. This is a screen from an app called RGT Cycling. This is all the data you might typically see. RGT Cycling creates a little 3D avatar. You can ride and it'll simulate the hills. You can do races. But when you pedal, you create a force, and that force essentially is creating energy or watts. Think of like a 60-watt light bulb. So if you're pedaling hard, you might be generating over 100 watts of energy, and that's essentially enough to power a laptop computer. So that's what you'll see oftentimes is power. And most of these smart trainers, that's what they're known for, is that they measure that power, and that's what adjusts the resistance. So when you get into the smart trainer world, this is how you can train smarter. This is how you can simulate hills. So you'll see a lot of apps focusing on that power number. The one we're going to talk about a little bit here today, and we have a ride next weekend on this platform called Zwift. It is by far the biggest, the largest, the most popular platform. You can see that power number here, 226 watts right front and center. It's easy. I use this on an Apple TV at home, kind of like the picture here on the right. You can just sit in front of your TV in your living room or in your office. You don't need a lot of devices, just a little Apple TV on the back of your TV set and you're good to go. And a smart trainer or some type of trainer with a sensor. The reason why we wanted to mention Zwift is because they do have a lot of women-specific programming out there. If you really want to get into this Zwifting thing, I highly recommend looking up a couple things. There is a Facebook group called Zwift Ladies Only. There's also some third-party websites where you can actually search and filter for women-specific events. They have some races, some group rides, a lot of beginner-friendly rides especially. We even created a BFF Bikes racing team group on that Zwift Power platform you can join. And there's even other things like if you're pregnant, if you're an expecting mom, they now even have a baby on board training program specifically for someone who might be pregnant. But there's all different teams. Again, Zwift it's more of a virtual cycling environment. This is more of a game. The races are more competitive because there's more people on them, but there's so much content out there on it, and they've done the best job in terms of gamifying it, making indoor cycling fun. So it is a great way to get started. I did mention that RGT cycling. I was going to mention that simply for two reasons. One, they do have a free option. Zwift costs about $15 a month, but RGT has a basic option that's completely free. So if you're just looking for something free, something to try out, it's a great option. The only barrier with this is you need a phone and a device to view a screen on. So technically you need two devices and a smart meter, a smart trainer, or a power meter of some kind. But you can create any ride, any course in the world. The physics are more realistic. So it's a neat platform. And a lot of the big, if you're into or want to get into bike racing, for USA Cycling, they're using this platform more and more going into this upcoming fall and winter. If you want something that's just free and just some video entertainment, this is a new option I was going to mention. It's completely free for USA Cycling members, which is like a $40 a year membership. They also have a 14-day trial, and I added a 30-day trial here to this platform called Vid Fitness. This is where people upload their own ride videos, and then you can ride them, simulating the hills and the courses. So I've uploaded a bunch. There's a Switzerland challenge. If you want to ride some of the rides that I've ridden in Switzerland, I put a three ride challenge up there on this platform. So vidfitness.com is one that's completely free, and it works on a computer, so a PC or Mac. as your controller. All right, so I've done enough talking. We're gonna get into a little bit of an interactive piece now. We're gonna talk about how to set up a trainer. So one of the most popular smart trainers out there, and again, I'm a coach, so I'm biased in terms of a training perspective. But one of the best kind of entry-level smart trainers that I've seen out there is the Saris M2. They're not paying me to say anything. I consider theirs and the Wahoo Snap two of the best basic entry-level smart trainers. The reason for that is because they can control a lot of resistance and they're relatively accurate and they're very easy to use. You don't have to take your wheel off. You don't have to get very complicated. You can put your bike right on it and it's a very powerful trainer that can do really steep gradients too. So if you want to do some hill training, can't find a lot of hills here in Chicago, so you can do a lot of good hill training on this. But I'm going to turn it over to Peter, and Peter is going to kind of walk you through just to show you if you do get this trainer, a lot of people are intimidated by how do you set it up. So he's going to attempt to set the whole thing up from scratch. He's going to show us how to do it very quickly. And we're going to switch cameras here to another camera so that he can show us to you. So I'm going to turn my mic off and switch to him to get rid of that echo. But get ready here, and we're going to pop it.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this call. Sorry for the feedback here. I think we're going to get that taken care of. So one thing that people will wonder, you know, I buy a trainer, never done indoor training before. What is the process of actually getting started? So right here in front of the camera, hopefully you can see it, I'll move my knee, is what you'll see when you open up the box. So inside of here, you'll open it up and you'll see the actual trainer stand. There's a cardboard box that has the rest of these parts in it. So all I've done so far is cut open the plastic bags, gotten everything out. So to start, I'm going to open up the training stand. It has these legs that lock into place. And now that we've done that, we have the base on which the bike will be mounted and the resistance generator will be attached. So this is the resistance generator. As you're biking, the tire is going to spin this cylinder, and inside of here, there's a load generator that communicates to whichever device you choose to run the Smart Trainer app. And this is what will simulate the resistance of the hills or the workouts that you choose to ride. So first things first, you want to identify the couple pieces that you have. And I'm just going to slide them in place and show you what it actually looks like to get it set up. There are some great videos and resources online. So when you're doing this at home, if you decide to get a trainer like this one, you'll have something to follow along with. But we just thought we'd do this here so you could see that it actually is not too complicated. Line that out. Put that in there.
Camera over here.
little bit of wrestling there to get the holes lined up.
Okay, go.
So once we've gotten that in, I'll just put the nut into place. Plug the hose through, and then we'll use a wrench to tighten that down.
You should probably start the timer. You're still gonna do it in under 5-10 minutes?
Yeah. And if this doesn't look like something that you want to do at home, you can certainly come into your local bike shop at BFF and they'll help you out with it. So the last step is to mount the adjustment knob. This knob will allow for tensioning the resistance unit onto the tire, like that. And finally, I'll run through the process of swapping out skewer. Yeah. So in the box, you'll receive a trainer skewer. Looks like this. So you'll want to take the piece of paper off of it and loosen the nut and take off one of the springs. The skewer has two cone-shaped springs, and the reason it's important to use the trainer skewer rather than the skewer that comes up on your bike is because the trainer itself will clamp down onto the skewer, and you want to be sure that the skewer doesn't have, like this one does, a plastic coating that it won't grip as tightly. So you want to set your original equipment skewer aside. You'll put that somewhere where you'll remember where it is, and then install the trainer skewer. And the handle side goes on the non-drive side, so the side that doesn't have the chain on it. Put the spring on with the larger side of the cone facing out. Tighten it down. You're probably somewhat familiar with putting the skewer on a bike, but you want to kind of do it by feel, so it's tight, but also able to clamp down and close all the way. And then this is the mechanism here that clamps down on the bike. So out of the box, you may need to adjust the opening, the spacing between the clamp so that it'll fit the spacing of your bike. And I just put that into, you know, swinging the front wheel around just slightly. And then you just clamp it into place. I've already filled up this tire to 90 PSI. once you have the bike clamped into the stand, you can fill that up, make sure your tire pressure is appropriate, and then you want to tighten the resistance unit onto the tire itself. So the tire begins to bulge into form a little bit. And then from that point, you're ready to ride. You can ride it as is. You can use the Saris app to calibrate the device, or you can just get started with Zwift or whichever platform you're choosing. Look forward to your questions later in the call.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to switch back to this camera here. I saw a couple questions a couple people had. The trainer tire question is one I hear a lot as a coach. They do make, if you get a wheel-on trainer like this, they do make a special tire you can put on your bike. It's called a trainer tire. Generally, I actually don't recommend them if you want something simple. The only reason I usually do recommend them is if noise is an issue. So if you live in an apartment, you have neighbors, the trainer tire is a much more soft rubber, and so it makes a lot less noise, but you can't ride outdoors on it. It's very slick. It'll crash in wet conditions. It'll pick up a lot of rock and glass debris that'll get stuck in it, so you never want to use those outdoors. So usually what I recommend is just get a regular standard tire. If you have an old tire that you might have ridden a lot, use that on your trainer through the winter. It might wear it down, but then when you get ready to ride outdoors again, more in the springtime, that's when you can go and maybe buy a new trainer tire. So usually based on how much you ride, you know, you might buy a new tire every year or two. So doing it based on that. So that is a concern. A wheel-on trainer will make a little bit more noise. It will wear down your tire more. The direct drive trainer, which is the H3 over here, won't wear down your tire at all, and it'll be a lot quieter. The only detriment that I do notice that those trainers, the direct drive trainers, because you're putting your chain on that directly, it does wear down the chain a little bit quicker because it's stretching it out, especially if you're doing a lot of hard resistance work. But generally, it's less wear and tear on your bike if you get the direct drive trainers. But hopefully that helps answer.
Oh yeah. The other big reason for buying a trainer tire on wheel-on trainer system is because a road tire is not designed for the heat that can be generated while riding on a trainer such as this one. So what can happen is the tire itself can kind of blister and delaminate, and in the past I've worked in a hockey training studio where we've actually had tires blow up because of that. So trainer tires are a good option if you do get into riding on the trainer and want to avoid that happening. And a trainer tire will last at least a couple of seasons typically for most people. So you can keep that trainer tire set aside when you're actually using the bike indoors.
The one thing I'll add to that too, and we'll be answering your questions as we go throughout the presentation. I know you might have been able to hear him as well. One thing I'll notice about that we didn't mention, regardless of what type of tire you get for the wheel-on trainer, the most important thing that I found, and I've managed an indoor cycling studio for 10 years, so I've had a lot of tires first. The most important thing is actually inflate your tires to the recommended pressure, or at least about 10 to 20 PSI below that. Because like he mentioned, the tires do warm up, that expands the air inside, and that changes the pressure and the resistance and whatnot. And so that's why these wheel-on trainers, normally you have to ride on them for a couple minutes at least to warm them up, and then you have to calibrate them. So there's usually a little bit of a calibration process involved. And regardless of what tire you get, whether it's a trainer tire or a regular tire, they both can blister and burst. I've had a lot of trainer tires burst as well, because people don't put the right pressure air in them. And people don't realize, but overnight, even over the course of just one night or 2 nights, most tires have thin latex tubes or different types of tubes on the inside. Those can permeate 10 or 20 PSI overnight. So from day to day, you might need to just top off your tire on a regular basis if you're using wheel-on trainer. So if you don't have a bike pump at home, that might be something to get, just something to think about. Okay, we're going to continue on. If you have more questions, feel free to post them. We'll get to them as we continue to talk, or by the end. But I want to make sure we get through a couple other things. So once you have that trainer set up, the next step, if you have a smart trainer, I recommend reading the instructions. But if you don't, just look to download the app. Usually Saris has an app you can download. Whatever trainer you get, download the app, because there's usually like a software update or something, and it'll also guide you through how to train, how to calibrate your trainer, how to get things started. And there's a lot of good YouTube videos. I know someone mentioned for setting up the trainer like he just did. There's actually a great video on the Saris YouTube channel on this particular trainer. They also have a video for the H3 on there. So if you couldn't see everything and couldn't hear it quite as well, we're going to send out this whole presentation that has the links to the videos. So if you look on my screen that I have shared right now, on the bottom right, I'll have those 2 links for the Saris trainers on there. Then the other thing is hop on the trainer and just start riding. Warm yourself up, warm the trainer up, and then usually the app will have a calibration process that you do before you do any type of high intensity training. But if you're just doing regular training, sometimes you don't need to calibrate if you're not looking for that precision, and you just ride. So the next thing, little clicker. So the next thing I wanted to mention is not just how to set up the trainer, but how to set up your home. So some people actually just set up their trainer and have it hidden behind a couch, under a bed. You pull it out, set it up, you ride. A couple important considerations if you're trying to really dial in and create a comfortable, fun, efficient little training setup. Think about things like the picture on the left here. Put down a mat underneath the trainer, something to capture your sweat. I made this mistake. I didn't have a good mat when I first got my trainer at home and didn't realize how much I sweat. And my sweat actually absorbed into my hardwood floors through the trainer mat that I had. So get a good high quality trainer mat, or put a couple levels of towels underneath to capture your sweat. If you have power cables, make sure you don't sweat on top of those. I've had that issue as well. Some people like to get a desk. If you're using a computer as your main entertainment device, it's nice to have a little desk. Saris makes one with a fancy built-in, USB charger, power strip, I think, cup holder, all that jazz. Or you can get just a very basic table, like I think Jillian here at the bike shop is carting out her little old, I don't know if the wheels still work on this thing, but it's just a very basic little table.
It was $50 from Wayfair.
Hold on here, sorry, having a screen share issue. So besides that, the other things that probably the most important thing from my point of view is actually cooling. So you notice in a lot of these pictures, the one on the left has 2 fans. And I like that one because they show the fans off center. Some people put their fans right in front of themselves, and that air might go down your throat directly and dry out your throat a little bit. So it's always good to have the fans just a little bit off center. Spend money on a good fan. It makes a world of difference if you want to be comfortable, if you want to be able to do longer rides and things like that. But anything works. Some people just get a stationary bike, put a towel underneath it, that's all you need. So there's plenty of options. And the picture in the middle, you'll see this the fancy platform from Saris. That is a very expensive but fun toy. It actually slides forward, back, and side to side. So it simulates outdoor riding. So if your butt tends to get really sore, that really helps, and it makes it feel a little bit more like riding outside. So I think they're actually going to have that here in the BFF Bike Shop for a week or so.
Yeah, we'll leave it here at the shop so people can come in and take a look at it, see what it's like. It's nice because it has these gripping pads too, so when you're climbing up onto your bike and climbing down, you know, cycling shoes aren't always the grippiest. That's nice to have somewhere to land. Same thing with the trainer mat, it gives you a good grip for your cycling shoes when you're climbing up and onto the bike.
Yeah, so if you have the money to spend, something to look at, but I would say definitely spend the money on a good fan first and maybe a good TV, the entertainment side of things. And that's definitely a good investment of your money up front. But yeah, if you have the money to spend, that's the creme de la creme for sure.
And this will work with any trainer. So if you were to get the M2 or the H3, if you already have a trainer, if it's something that you're looking to add down the road, this will work with nearly every trainer out there.
So a couple of the things I just want to show these pictures here. That upper left is the Garmin speed sensor. So if you don't have a smart trainer, you just have a regular basic trainer, go by that. The one called the Speed 2 does Bluetooth and ANT+, 2 different wireless signals. It'll work with basically anything. The box looks something like this, if you guys can see my screen. This one comes with a bundle with the speed and the cadence sensor. And the sensor is just a little tiny thing with a rubber band around it. And it wraps around the hub of your rear wheel. So as long as your bike has a rear wheel, you can pretty much put this on it. And it works with almost any type of bike. All right. Fans, front wheel trainer block. A lot of the trainers you buy will come with something to hold your front wheel in place so it doesn't twist side to side. But sorry, I'm getting distracted here. The Saris one that I have pictured, the climbing block, is what I found the most stable. So if you're looking for something super stable, that's the one that I use at home. Highly recommend it. The one thing, if you don't have a trainer yet, that you might also need to get, and again, I think some of the trainers, like the Saris one, I think comes with the trainer skewer, or does it?
Yes, any Saris trainer that requires a trainer skewer will come with it.
Yeah.
And you can certainly ride with the trainer skewer on, you don't need to take that off. However, if you're sharing the trainer with someone else who's going to be installing their bike onto it, it's important that you make sure that you have a trainer skewer for all bikes that will be home.
Yeah. And this is where the bike shop can help you out. But a trainer skewer is just this little skewer. It goes through the axle of your rear wheel, and it allows you to mount your bike onto a trainer safely and securely. So they make different ones for different types of bikes. If you're not sure, just ask your bike shop or post a question. But the picture I have here on the screen, the top one is the regular, what we call it, a standard trainer skewer for a bike that has rim brakes. So if you have calipers that kind of pinch your wheel to brake it, that's the one you're looking for. If you have a newer bike that has a disc brake on the back wheel, you'll need this, what's called a through axle skewer. And then the only other thing I would definitely mention is towels. Have a towel over your handlebar, or more importantly, over the cap of your stem. And that is basically where your bike handlebar connects onto the tube that controls your front wheel. And the reason for that is when you sweat indoors, outdoors, the wind kind of blows the sweat off you. Indoors, the sweat drops straight down, and it can get down in little places where it shouldn't and cause corrosion over time. So very important. It's worth $10, $20, $30 to buy even a purpose-built towel, like the Cyclops has one where he has a cell phone holder built into it, which is pretty nice. And it helps protect your phone from getting sweaty. It helps protect your bike from getting sweaty. Or if you just have an extra towel, just throw an extra towel over the front of your bike. But protect your bike. Your bike is your BFF, right? So you want to make sure you protect it.
And be sure to have it tuned up and cleaned after an indoor season, because you don't want all of that calcification.
Yeah, I actually, one habit I've gotten into, because I've done some long rides. I've done an indoor Everesting. So it took me about just under 13 hours to climb the height of Mount Everest on my bike in a simulated virtual world. So I sweat a lot doing that. and it does get all over your bike. So I actually keep some fitness wet wipes. And every time I finish riding, I just take some out of a little container, wipe down my bike, the saddle, the seat post, kind of where the sweat generally drops down. And that really helps keep my bike from getting corrosion. But yeah, if you haven't had a tune-up, and some people I know haven't gotten our tune-ups in more than a year or two, you definitely want to consider doing that. Even like the usually every 3 to 5 years, I do the complete overhaul tune-up where they take every component off and they kind of clean everything. And that's well worth it if you do a lot of indoor training. But if you just take care of it yourself, you can avoid needing any major work on your bike just by doing the daily cleaning. All right, I am going to switch now to our expert panel. So again, we have several speakers. We have a couple of guests on the Zoom too. So this is where if you guys have questions, feel free to post them in the Zoom chat. If you want, we're gonna have a couple people checking the questions. We can just read them, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question as well. And if we don't have any, we have a couple prepared questions, and we have some that you guys submitted ahead of time as well. So we'll go through all of those. So first question.
Sarah was asking, did you bring a training wheel with you so we can run it? They want to hear
How loud it is. That's a good question. We were just talking about that, I think, beforehand. It might be hard to hear it over the Zoom chat adequately. I know the Saris H3, the direct drive, the more expensive trainer, is, what did you say, 55 to 60 decibels?
Yeah, we're measuring it at 20 miles an hour, so kind of at maybe a faster riding pace, to be emitting about 59 decibels. And point of comparison, vacuum cleaner on the quieter side would be about 75 decibels. And our refrigerator is about the same as this, 55 decibels. So fairly quiet on this one. This will be closer to that vacuum cleaner level. Not quite at 75, but it can get a little bit louder. It does help to have a trainer mat underneath any trainer, but it does take some of that vibration and absorb it to make it a little bit quieter while you're riding.
Yeah, and I have, and I think I put the link here at the very end, I'll mention too. A lot of the little details of things that I mentioned today, I've put on a website so you guys can find all the products and things that we have talked about or recommended. And for the trainer mats, they make really good sweat-proof ones that are also not just for sweat, but for, like you said, dampening the sound and the vibration, and that's really important. I've also found some thicker ones. So what I actually do is I have a thick kind of foam fitness mat that's about 3/4 inch thick to really completely dampen the vibration. Because sometimes it's not the trainer, it's that vibration. But I've had the issue where with the direct drive trainer, my chain is actually louder than the wheel. So make sure, another tip we mentioned earlier, but lube your chain. You can buy like wax lube at the bike shop, and you just drip a little bit on each link. It gets rid of that noise. So if you're worried about noise, definitely make sure you lube your chain. That does make a big difference, especially on the direct drive trainers. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be a good question. Maybe we'll look into what the sound difference is of a trainer tire versus a regular tire. I know there is a big sound difference, but I'm not sure how big that is.
Yeah.
Okay, and Sarah also asked you to mention PSI for the rear wheel. Are any adjustments recommended for the front wheel?
No, yeah, you do want to keep your front wheel inflated. If it goes too low, which is easy, sometimes it looks like it's completely flat. You just want enough so that your front wheel isn't bouncing around. So just keep it to the regular tire pressure on the front wheel. The thing to know too, a lot of people don't know this, if you use compressed air, like a CO2 cartridge, like you had a flat on the side of the road and you have one of those fancy little quick inflators, the molecule size of that compressed air with the nitrogen is different, and it actually comes out of your tube. very, very quickly, even overnight or over the course of 2 days. So sometimes if you think your tire is completely flat because you haven't touched it in a while and it looks like it's completely flat, it probably isn't. Just reinflate it. You're probably fine. Air does permeate through the tires pretty quickly.
Then Jess said, I went looking for a training skewer at a very legit Southside shop that I'll not name. The mechanic had no idea what I was talking about when I asked for a training skewer, but he gave me an extra steel skewer, and that's what I've been using. Is that okay?
Yeah, so I don't know if we can, maybe I'll try and switch to this, this camera here. I don't know if this is working, but
So I'm going to hold one up here too. So we have two different types. I think you have a regular skewer, correct?
Yeah.
Peter.
so yeah, this is the skewer that came off of this Live road bike, and if you look at it, the end of the skewer is kind of stylized. It's not just a. I'll show the trainer skewer now.
Yeah, I've got it on my camera here.
So you'll see the big difference is just that the trainer skewer is all metal and rounded so that it fully engages with the clamping mechanism that's holding the bike onto the trainer.
Yeah.
So as long as the skewer fits the bike and is that all steel construction, it'll be safe to ride.
Yeah, the most important thing is that it's made out of metal because plastic will wear down. Some bikes come with plastic caps on that end of the axle of the rear wheel. So it needs to be completely rounded so it can engage, and metal on both sides. This is what a typical, old school trainer skewer looks like. Newer bikes we mentioned that have the through axles, it's more complicated. Even bike shops sometimes have trouble figuring things out. They have different threadings at the end. They are thicker, and they usually have spacers depending on the width. So it gets really complicated because different bikes have different threadings. They have different spacers, different widths. I have seen recently there is one through axle company called Rappy Lock, and they make one that's adjustable. So no matter what type of through axle you have, you can change the threading, you can change the spacers and all that. So I do have that link on that website. So if you have questions about that one, when you buy it, it's about the same price as a regular through axle, and it has a full instruction sheet to how to measure and find the right one for your bike. So that's one of the best new products I've seen for people that have the through axles.
And Ben says, yeah, the one he gave me has circular ends.
Yeah.
So it fits my trainer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I've got a couple of questions here too that I want to throw out to the expert panel. So I don't know if Jackie and Terry, if you guys are on the line and want to chip in on any of these questions. But one of the questions here is, what is the hardest part of getting started? Does anybody want to take that one? Or what was your hardest part of getting started?
Getting started with indoor riding or just getting started in tri?
Terry, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think you may have turned your volume down.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
There we go. That's Chris.
That was my fault. Sorry.
Hey, Chris, thanks. So what do you mean, getting started on indoor riding or getting started in just doing triathlons or cycling or what?
Yeah, it's kind of an open-ended
Indoor
question.
riding.
But indoor riding is our topic today. So I know you've been doing mostly outdoor riding, right?
I have, but I did buy an indoor trainer. And the hardest part for me was trying to figure out what I should buy that was in my budget. And, that was really hard because there's smart and there's dumb and there's fluid and there's portable, and all of it was very confusing. And I spent probably 2 months trying to figure out what I wanted to buy and making a decision about what to buy. And then after I bought it, I realized that I'd bought a fluid dumb trainer. So then I needed the electronic connections to connect to Zwift or something else. So then I had another problem to solve. So getting somebody who can give you some advice on what to buy can be the best way to get started, because there's a lot of choice out there and a lot of price ranges.
Yeah, and I would add to that too, like some of the good starting points are one, a bike shop, especially bike shops that deal with a lot of smart trainers. They sell a lot of them. They'll know all the questions they've gotten. Cycling teams or triathlon teams, asking people who've got them and been using them themselves. There's a lot of Facebook groups for things like that. And although I would be biased in saying this, but obviously a coach, and especially a coach who might be using a smart trainer themselves, because they're usually guiding other athletes on making those decisions too. So I'm actually planning on putting some more little like blog articles and things like that out from some of the questions that I've gotten to help with that, but that's a really good point. All right.
Actually, somebody did ask.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, Beth is asking, will you please ask regarding hardest part about getting started with indoor riding and lessons learned?
Yeah.
What are some lessons that we've learned?
So this is actually, yeah, this is a perfect segue to our second question. And I'd love to put this one to Jackie. So for those of you who don't know Jackie, I don't know if we did a appropriate introduction. So Terry is actually an athlete I've coached for years, and she's a certified coach. Jackie is another athlete that I've been coaching over the last couple of years, and she is one of the best. She's very, very diligent and very, very consistent with her training, and she's won everything, it seems like these days. She won the world championships. She was the top female age group athlete on the planet, and then won the Chicago Triathlon. I forget now how many times, 5 or 6 times in all the different divisions. So she's a very competitive athlete, but a very humble and friendly one. And she's been doing a lot of indoor training. So the question to you, Jackie, is what should you do for your first ride on Zwift?
And what lessons have you learned?
And yeah, exactly. What's the most important lesson you've learned?
So I have definitely made a lot of mistakes on Zwift. And I think the biggest lesson I learned was one we already addressed earlier, was just how much sweat you make when you train indoors. Like, you know, you really do not appreciate how hot you get, how much heat your body makes, how much you sweat when you're, you know, working out indoors. So the recommendations of having towels, you know, I actually have a couple extra towels taped to my bike, in addition to the towels that I regularly ride with on my handlebars, in addition to the sweat catcher I have permanently on my handlebars. And I actually have a whole other stack of towels right here. Seems like I'm always going through hand towels these days. And related to that is, especially once you start going on these longer rides, realizing that just like when you go on a long outdoor ride, you need to hydrate and fuel the same thing, because you think like, oh, you know, I'm just sitting in here watching TV. And it's like, oh, you know, you're spending 2 or 3 hours in the saddle. You need to give yourself credit just like you would outside.
That's a really good answer. And actually, that is related to another question we got from one of the submitted questions earlier on. How long should you do your first ride? So Jackie might be doing 2 to 3 hour rides indoors. That doesn't mean all of us need to be doing 2 to 3 hours when you hop on the trainer. I know I typically recommend that people just start with like a 20, 30-minute ride and gradually work their way up their ride. But everyone has kind of different recommendations. A lot of the workouts you'll see on Zwift and other platforms, I would say, are usually around 30 to 60 minutes.
I would personally say, what's the length of your favorite TV episode? You know, eventually work up the length to like a full-length Marvel movie, and that's a great training plan, whatever you can find on Netflix.
Great tip.
Another thing that's great about indoor cycling is it's much easier to schedule it within your day, I would say. You know, it doesn't take nearly as long to ride and get a good workout indoors as it does outdoors. So you can, you know, budget less time and get as good, if not better, of a workout.
Yeah, so sometimes I spend about 30 minutes just getting my water bottles filled, my clothes on, my helmet on, my lights, my gadgets. I forget to charge my computer, and it takes me forever to get an outdoor ride going. Whereas indoors, I like to just keep my bike set up and I can hop on and hop off. And get a great workout done in a short period of time. All right. Okay, so then I got another generic question here. Any just general tips for training indoors? So anything that you've learned that could be beneficial, especially for a first timer?
Yeah, and I think someone had submitted a question, tips about not getting bored.
Yeah, not getting bored. So I know Jackie mentioned Netflix. Anyone else have good tips on how not to get bored indoor riding when you're just staring at a wall?
I think a good, like Jackie mentioned, a good show. If you are doing a longer ride, 2 or 3 hours, don't be afraid to, get off and, walk around a little bit, because the trainer is less forgiving than outside. Like outside, you can coast for a few minutes, or you can stand up or sit down, and well, you can stand up and sit down indoors, but you will feel like you're kind of just going and going and going without getting that coasting ability. And so sometimes your butt might need a rest, or you might just need to get off and have a normal glass of water versus from your plastic water bottle or something. So I think it's important to for you to be okay with that.
For me, music was
One thing,
one thing at a time that is conducive to working out, breaks up some of the monotony of watching the Zwift screen or whatever it is.
Yeah, so Peter, if you guys couldn't hear, Peter was saying music, having music going is definitely very helpful to keep you motivated. I think was Terry or someone else wanted to chip in?
yeah, this may sound odd, but an ironing board is the exact right height to stack up the stuff that you might want to have available, like, your music, your iPod in case you don't want to watch that movie anymore, and a couple extra bottles of water and your sandwich, and it's just the best thing ever. It's the perfect time.
Yeah, adjustable height.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I've also found that with the kind of the industry change of everything going indoors and a lot of elite athletes and expert coaches not having a lot of things to do, there's a lot of great content online in terms of YouTube videos, in terms of rides. So looking at online cycling teams and clubs is a great place to start. The social aspect really keeps you motivated indoors. Being able to like see someone or just talk to someone on video. I know like even Jackie started using an app called Twitch, which was popular with the video gamers, but now it's become huge in the online cycling world, where you can watch other people as they're doing their indoor training. So you can see like world champion athletes and interact with them and ask them questions and things like that. And when you start to learn where to find those, it makes indoor training a lot more fun too, because it's not just you're able to connect with other people.
I do have another question. So Carrie is asking, can you talk a little more about favorite products and different price ranges?
Yeah, so favorite products, I might want to expand on that. I don't know if that question is about the software side or the hardware side, but there's a lot of different tiers that I would say.
Bike trainer specifically.
The bike trainer specifically, there's really three big industry leaders. Saris we have here is one of the biggest. They're also kind of our local company. If you want to think about it, here in Chicago, they're all their manufacturing, and most of it I think is across the border in Wisconsin. So you'll see them pretty active locally, and they work with bike shops, which is always good. So I always like to encourage, supporting local businesses in that regard. They compete kind of directly with a company called Wahoo, and I would say Garmin. Wahoo has their trainer called the Snap, which is almost identical in terms of specs to the Saris one. Although the Saris one I found is easier to find these days. Supply and demand has been all over the place lately, but they're very, very similar. Very minor differences between the two. The H3 compares to what's called the Wahoo Kicker, and that's also a direct drive trainer. Similar specs. Wahoo has one that's priced higher. It's like $1,200 or so, and then they have one that's right around the same price as that. So the H3, the main reason I found to recommend the H3 over the Wahoos is it does a better job of interval training. So if you want to do intervals, the H3, the way to adjust the resistance is a little bit quicker and smoother than a lot of other trainers. So that was one key selling point of the H3 trainer over some of the others. Some of the direct drive trainers also have different compatibility. So sometimes if you have a through axle bike, you want to just check to make sure that it's compatible. So some of them I've noticed. I don't know if you want to talk about other brands or notice any other kind of like key differentiating points of different brands of Saris' trainers versus others.
Well, I'll just speak about Saris, but the H3, for example, you're talking about connectivity with different bikes. H3 will come with different end caps, so these can be swapped out for right now quick release, through axle, or any other mounting type. Very easy to do that. And then the question I think was price point. This one is $499. This one's $999. And then we mentioned the standard or traditional trainer, the dumb trainers. The fluid squared is $299. That was a real popular option that can be then modified with various sensors that I think we've talked about being, anywhere from $35 to $60.
Yeah, for I want to say almost like a decade, the Saris fluid or fluid tube trainer was kind of like the gold standard of dumb trainers, or of all trainers or smart trainers right now. So if you want a really low budget option that still is good in terms of like the size of the flywheel, which is kind of like the weight of the momentum, which is why the H3 is really good. It has a really big flywheel. The fluid trainers are really, really good for that. So if you want to look for just like a basic trainer that will feel smooth and you don't want to break the bank, that is a good option at like the $200 to $300 price range. Then this one is like the $400 or $500 price range, and then that one is like the $900 to $1,000 price range. The only other big brand I know of is Garmin, which bought a company called TacX. They make one that's like $1,500 that you don't even have to plug in. It just, you generate the power for it. So if you want something that you don't have to plug into a wall, that's the only other major differentiating smart trainer that I know of out there. It has a couple other things to it, but most of the brands are pretty close to each other these days in terms of the specs.
I get another one from Sarah. Okay, this should be my last question. What trainers and accessories does BFF have in stock?
Great question. That would be to Jillian. I know
Because it's
a lot of bike shops are waiting to get inventories, but I think
so we currently only have this one trainer for sale, but we have a few more coming in next week. We have a big load of trainers coming in from Saris early December. We have a date right now. We're hoping to get them a little sooner. So we don't have a lot in stock at the moment. We're expecting a few in a week, and then or 2 weeks, and then the rest the beginning of December. So, and we'll have some of the accessories as well, like the mats and the trainer tires. So.
I was gonna add, I know I've been looking for a lot of the little stuff too, just like chain lube and chamois cream and nutrition. They have all that. They have cell phone holders, some other things like that. I would recommend definitely, no matter where you're going, call a bike shop ahead of time. If they're getting an inventory in, they might be able to, I don't know, reserve one potentially. So that as soon as it's in, you can grab it. I know that they have the M2 here right now, and I don't know if they have an H3 or not, but I know when the whole pandemic started, that was a big thing. All of a sudden, everyone was looking for trainers, and they were hard to find. I bought the last one at REI at one point, and we were running around, and yeah, it's been a little bit of an ordeal. It's getting better now, though, for sure. Okay, we have a couple more questions, and then I do have a final kind of tip. I also have a shopping list, so if you guys are looking on getting stuff and supplies, and then we'll send out this whole presentation with some more information as well.
And don't forget about our special offer.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip through, or actually let's do this one question I just brought up here. Any tips for racing indoors? So I want to throw that one back to Jackie. I just saw she smiled. She's been doing a lot of online racing. I know I've been encouraging it, but any tips for, especially for women who want to get into not just indoor training, but then maybe trying an indoor race?
So first of all, what I have to say here, my number one tip is do not be intimidated. You know, we need more women racing. I think, you know, there just is not a strong women's cycling community on Zwift yet, which is where I do most of my racing. So get out there, try, you know, you're in the comfort of your own home, and there is never any shame in what you do. You know, you get out there, you try, and that's all we ask. You know, and it's really exciting to get out there to do those sprints. You know, the best, you know, races are the best training you're going to get. So even if you go in there with the expectation that this is just going to be a great workout, it's a great workout. It's exciting. Now, beyond that, beyond just trying, which would be my number one tip, I'm going to speak to Zwift specifically here because, again, that's where I have my most experience racing. Zwift typically has several different categories of racing. There's A, B, C, and D. And you can pick a category which is going to be competitive for you. And that's all kind of stratified around what your functional threshold power is. And for those of you that don't know that number, it's kind of the power you could hold for an hour if you were to go 100% all out. So I race in the A category, you know, and you may be more comfortable racing in the B category, you may be more comfortable racing in the C category. And ultimately, Zwift will help you decide which category you belong in once you have more of these races under your belt. But, you know, once you've ridden for a while, you have a better idea of what sort of powers or wattages you like to hold. You know, it's very easy to go in. Zwift holds a lot of events every day. So I would actually recommend picking a women's specific race and then picking a category where you think you'll get a good amount of competition, where you'll be able to, you know, bike alongside other women, where you'll get really excited for that last sprint or something like that. Because ultimately, you know, there's something to be said just for the excitement of being able to do your best. And, you know, even the worst race is still a great workout. So I think my tips boil down to 1, just get out there, and 2, look at it as an opportunity to push yourself.
Yeah, great tips. I'm going to skip over the last couple I have. Oh, do you have some guy?
Oh, I just said that's awesome.
Oh. So just in the interest of time, I want to cut to the end here because we have some other information. I had some starter tips. I'm going to skip to the checklist at the end, basically just reminding you, buy something to protect your bike. If you haven't been on your bike in a while, lubricate the chain. And if you're not comfortable in the saddle as a beginner, explore the beautiful world of chamois cream. They make women's specific brands too. It makes a world of difference for riding indoors. So I wanted to add that. From a coaching perspective, I usually tell people my whole kind of 4-star endurance group started based on the 4 main things that motivate people. So if you're looking for ways to get yourself motivated at something new, like indoor cycling, I usually say 1, get a plan. Almost every app, any platform out there now has training plans. I actually have created free workouts for an open Chicago cycling community that you can enjoy, but just having the structured plan helps. Testing your fitness, like Jackie was saying, learning about power, what your power is, that's built into almost all of these platforms. Learning about something new gets you excited about it, and that keeps you really, really motivated. And then inspiring others. So I usually encourage my athletes to volunteer, do fundraising, things like that, but also just doing something fun and silly and social, like just get out there and do it, try it. Those are the 4 areas that I found the athletes that really do these 4 things are the ones that succeed the most. So those are the four keys, the 4 star tips. If you want to join us next weekend, we are going to do a Zwift ride. On the Zwift website, if you've never been there, they have a great video section with all different tips on how to get set up, how to get into Zwift, how to get started with the Zwift. So you can go on there and check that out to just get some more information. And then we've set up a Zwift ride on Women's Cycling Day. And that is next Saturday, October 10th. We're going to start by doing a little socializing. There's a application that you can get for your phone or PC called Discord. It's just like Zoom basically, but it's always open, so anyone can just jump in, jump out. And it's really popular with online cyclists. So we have a channel on there where you can join, you can ask us more questions, you can see us on our trainers and interact with us. And we'll get on there at 1 o'clock. And then there is a ride on Zwift that starts at 1:15 p.m. We'll send a link out as a follow-up to this session. It's now listed on Zwift's website, so you can actually just go and find it. You don't have to kind of request an invitation. So I made a little link here, tinyurl.com/BFF-women, and that'll take you right to the ride. If you want to sign up right now, you can do that on the Zwift website or what's called the Zwift Companion app, which you can download on your phone. And then if you want to do the video and voice chat, download that app called Discord, and you can use that link below. And you can ask as many questions as you like as we ride. And during that ride, I'm going to try to do a lot of beginner-focused tips on Zwift. So I'll explain the screen, what to focus on. We might do a couple of sprints. We're going to ride on the Champs-Élysées in France. So we're going to ride in Paris and do some laps around, just like the final stage of the Tour de France, but as a group ride. So if you want to join in, look for that. And then if you want to join a community to get started, I created this little one called the Chicago Virtual Cyclists, CVC. It's just a Facebook group. I post stuff on there all the time. Other athletes do as well. We have group rides, events. So if you want to kind of get roped into indoor cycling, it's a great starting point. It's just a free open community, so feel free to contribute to it yourselves. And with that, I think we're done. So if you guys have questions, feel free, if you have questions for the bike shop, email hello@bffbikes.com. I think Jillian might have some special offer.
Yeah, just some last words. I would encourage everyone who's on this to, I know we gave you a lot of information, so I would encourage you all to email either us at BFF Bikes, BFF Bikes, or Coach Chris at coach@4starendurance.com. Please, no question is too, all questions are important to us, so we'd love to get you started and help you get started. Regarding the ride next week, we do have some trainers here that we can dust off. They're in the basement here. So if you want to email us and borrow one or rent one, we can certainly do that. We probably have 2 or 3 trainers if you want to do the ride. And also go onto our website, sign up for our newsletter, and check out our calendar. We have some events coming up where we're doing fix-a-flats. We're doing outdoor winter biking event or clinic. And what else? Oh, so the special, if you email hello@bffbikes.com and tell us that you attended this clinic, and then come in the next 5 days, we will give you $15 off a tune-up. So get your bike all ready for your indoor training. The tune-ups will start in November, and a free water bottle. So $15 off a tune-up and a free water bottle to you if you mentioned that you saw this session. And again, we have some trainers for rent, and if you are interested, I encourage everybody to give it a try. Oh, and if you want to pre-order a trainer, let us know. We have a few coming in, and I would definitely recommend pre-ordering those ahead of time.
And thanks, guys. If you have questions for me, feel free to just email me and my coaching team at coach@4starendurance.com. But I would say a great place to get started is that Facebook group, the Chicago Virtual Cyclists. Like I said, it's just a free community. So if you have follow-up questions from this, or you just want to interact with people, get feedback, unbiased from anyone who wants to respond, that's a great starting point. And then the last thing I'll mention is we will send out these slides, and we did record this session. So if you missed anything or we spoke through it a little too quick, you'll get it. As well as I made a little checklist here for you guys. This is kind of just a quick list of things you might want to shop for if you're trying to really set up a nice, awesome indoor training pain cave corner at home, as well as a little pre-ride checklist. Sometimes I need to remind myself, like, oh yeah, I need my water bottles. I need some nutrition. I need to charge my cell phone. I always forget about that one. So I've made these little checklists for you guys as well. So enjoy, and hopefully we'll see you for the virtual ride, or maybe somewhere in real life too. All right. Thanks, gang. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.